Going home, Falcon fan. This your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. So, guys, today I want to talk about coaching in the NFL and how I think it's so important to teams actually being successful for not just for one season, for over a span. If you look at coaching in the NFL, what it takes to be a good coach. Even though you can look at teams on paper and things like that, and you say this team is stacked, this other team is stacked, and you can look at examples around the league sometimes and kind of look at how talented teams are, but for some reason they're not able to actually get it done in the end. And sometimes all you have to do is look at the coaching. So coaching NFL, how important is it? And then we're going to actually look at some of the Atlanta Falcons coaches and talk about how we think they're going to be able to get this team successful. Of course, we're going to look at the last two seasons and see what this coaching staff have done. However, of course, they made some changes this offseason, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But at the end of the day, of course, the head coach is still there. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to see if coaching can play a major factor for the Atlanta Falcons in 2023 and hopefully in the future. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So, guys, what is the question, when it comes to coaching, right? Is it really a big deal when we think about coaching NFL? Or can you just plug anybody out there if you got the talent and you say, gosh, these guys are stacked? You're looking at the team, you're like, oh, I like the way they built. Any coaches go out there and call plays and they should be able to get it done. And we all know that is not the case, right? Actually, if you look at it, some coaches can do a lot more with less of their talent. And you can just look around the league and see, looking at how much guys are getting paid, the high salary teams and things like that. And then you look at teams that know how to develop their players and things like that, and they get the most out of their team. So I think coaches is an art. I think it's really important. That's why I want to talk about it today, and I'm going to try to relate that to our Atlanta Falcons, of course, and what we think about this coaching staff moving forward. So, first of all, I want to talk about what it takes, to be an NFL coach, some good traits to have coaching in NFL. And one of the things that you definitely can think about, first and foremost, is developing players and helping them perform, right, at their highest levels. So that's what you want to do. You want to be able to develop your players. So much of guys get drafted and everybody think they're a finished product and things like that. However, the college game is so different from the pro game, so you have to be able to develop players. You hear Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot always talk about they have vision for guys and where they can see them, how they're fit, on their team and things like that. Each organization does that. So you have to have a vision for the guy. You have to be able to develop him, and you have to be able to know when you get in the building what you think they need to work on and things like that. That's why it really amazes me when teams go out and draft young quarterbacks and then they don't develop them. They already get rid of them after 1 or 2 years. So that's really a lost art. You have to develop your players and you have to put them in the best position to form. I mean, that's just simple as that. You don't have a good development program on your team, your players are never going to get to their potential. And you see so many guys get drafted high, and the situation they get put in, they don't fare well. Some actually go out the league. Some actually get another opportunity. They give another team, and then they start to hit their strides because the potential is there. That's why they was drafted at those points. But coaches, organizations, owners, get so quick to pull the leashes on, pull these guys out, and then they never get to their full potential. So one of the things I really believe that good NFL coaching has to have is developing their players and put them in the best position to perform well and get to their highest peak, right? We talk about so many different players because you look at other sports and things, it's not, rosters is not that big, but in the NFL, you got a 53-man roster, then you got the practice squad, right? So those position coaches are very important because you work the techniques and things like that. Like I said, you're going to identify the strengths and weaknesses and all that stuff. So I really believe that the position coaches play a major role in a lot of the development of these young guys coming in. Most of the guys are not where they need to be when they come in, get drafted in the NFL. So you have to be able to develop, and those position guys, the guys that work with them day in and day out, is definitely something that you really, really want to try to make sure that they get to where they need to be. So position coaches is important. And if you look at the Atlanta Falcons position coaches, you kind of like what you see there. We'll talk about a couple of those guys today. We won't talk about the whole coaching staff because the NFL coach staff is huge. But we'll talk about a couple guys today. You have to have, it really goes with the old cliche, you got to have a winning culture. You got to be able to have that winning mindset. You got to be able to create a culture where guys can thrive in. Guys got to like to come to work, like to put the work in, having that winning mentality. And so many times guys come in and punch a clock because they don't like the atmosphere and things like that. So good coaching always got to have that. And it's really, like I said, overlooked. So when you're talking about a leader, a man, coaches, you got to be able to bring that. You got to be able to bring a good coaching culture to your organization, the leadership, how you lead and things like that. So that's really the pillars, guys. Develop your players. You want to make sure that your position coaches are put in place to make sure that they get the hands-on training they need, right? You want to have that winning culture at the end, and you want to make sure you have the right guy at the helm to be that, that leader of men that you need, right? All right, so when it comes to NFL coaching, there's some things that each coach should have. They got to be able to strategize. They got to plan and create things, right? So strategies and things like that. When I always think about strategies, you think about the most important big plays in the game. So what I mean by that, third downs. Third downs always are huge. So you got to be able to make sure you game plan and strategize for plays like that. The 2-minute offense is always big. You can see where teams play well in 2-minute offense. You see where teams struggle in 2-minute offense. At the end of games, I think that what Dan Quinn struggled with a lot at the end of game management, the clock, things like that. If you look at the Super Bowl, probably what happened with us and that was not managing the game well. I think Kyle Shanahan's maybe be learning now, but he really had issues with that in his career as well. Not managing game, got a good game plan, but those big moments in the game, within the game, got to be able to strategize and utilize those. And like I said, if you look at some of the teams around the league, they have issues with that. I think Arthur Smith does that really well. His 2-minute offense, especially at the end of halves. If you go back and look over the last 2 seasons, he's been able to make sure that we either get a score, get a stop, and try to at least get some kind of momentum going into halftime. And then in the games, he understands running the ball, going into that 4-minute offense. And the situational football is really important in NFL. And good coaches have that canny, mentality to make sure that they're able to do that situational football to the highest. You look at some of the guys that's really good at it, Andy Reid. Of course, Bill Belichick always has great strategy, great game plans and things like that. I hate to say it, Sean Payton is a good manager of games. We love to see that. I want to say Pete Carroll, besides that Super Bowl gaffe that he had when he decided not to run the ball, right? So that's really one of the things. So you got to be able to strategize. You got to be able to have game plans every week in and week out is going to be key for any coaching staff, head coach coming in. You want to be able to maximize the potential of your team. So we all are so excited about the additions to the Atlanta Falcons this year, but we got to be able to maximize these guys and put the potential, right? You put all these great players together, but if you not be able to maximize them to play as a team, as a group, as a unit, on both sides of the ball, it will not work. So that's what good coaching is. We're really gonna see how that transpires this year, especially with our new defensive coordinator, because to be honest, he has never been a defensive coordinator before. So we'll talk about what he has been done in just a minute. I'm gonna talk about some coaches, but overall, it's unknown. So we have to see how Ryan Nielsen, our DC, is able to put all those pieces, all those additions that we brought in to the defensive side of the ball. A lot of those guys are going to be starters as well to this team. So they're going to be plugged right in and ready to play. So that chemistry got to be developed, and those guys got to play together and maximize their potential as one unit. So that's definitely one of the things. Another thing that coaches failed on, and I really believe that you can say Arthur Smith does this really well. In some cases, most cases he does, is understanding your guys' strengths and weaknesses, right? They got to be able to understand their strengths and weaknesses. Make sure that you put those guys in the best positions to excel. Look at some of the things he have done. You can say to Ryan Tannehill, had some of his best seasons up under Arthur Smith. Same thing with King Henry. Of course, Jonnu Smith. That's why he had his big contract. AJ Brown became a household name, right? So you look at all the potential guys that he has got potential out of. I would even see Kyle Pitts in his first season, because you got to remember the two offenses was not the same from 21 to 22. But Kyle Pitts came out, hit the ground running. So he was able to utilize Kyle Pitts at his strengths, and hopefully we can get back to that this year. Everybody on the team need to have one focus, one goal, right? So you got to make sure that is instilled from day one. Come in. Most teams always say that they want to come in and win the Super Bowl, right? It's no secret. That is the game plan every season for each NFL team to come in and make sure they try to win the Super Bowl. But you got to have that one focus, one goal. No individuals, things like that. That's why it's important to bring in the right guys in the room and the team and make sure that they're going to excel at the things they do. And the biggest thing, the last thing I want to talk about is communication, right? You heard from a lot of players throughout the years in the NFL, and what they like about good coaches is tell them the truth, right? Don't sugarcoat nothing. Communicate. You want to be able to communicate, tell players what they need to hear. When you try to baby guys and sugarcoat stuff like that, it never goes well. So you need to be real with guys. Be stand up. They ain't playing well. You need to tell them they're not playing well. They missed an assignment. You need to tell them they missed the assignment. And players can live with that, right? They grown men. They like that. They like honesty. So being honest with players is always the way to go. And it seems like our head coach, Arthur Smith, is really a no-nonsense guy. He's going to tell you how it is, tell you how you see it. And it's not fake, right? People don't like fake people. So you want to be able to to make sure that you are authentic, and that goes a long way with players as well. So to me, that in a nutshell, guys, would make good NFL coaching. All those aspects that I just mentioned. If I missed anything, please, guys, let me know. If you think we could add something else to that, but for the most part, I think if we can do that with our coaching staff in Atlanta, I think we will be successful. Not just for this year, but hopefully for years to come. But if we look at some of our coaches and the staff that I'm going to talk about, Coach Smith, of course, our head coach and our offensive play caller. Of course, we know his last 2 seasons with the Tennessee Titans, he served as the offensive coordinator for those guys, where he had the best offense in the top 5 in both seasons. Red zone efficiency was great, and you love to see what Arthur Smith was able to do. And everybody was excited to see, could he bring that same kind of formula to the Atlanta Falcons. And I would say so far, so good, because like I said earlier, if you look at the last 2 seasons, 2 totally differently ran offenses, simply because of the play, the signal caller up on the center, 2 different guys. Both teams was totally different as well. So if you just go back to some of the things that we talk about, the strategies, the game plan, putting guys, in their best position to be successful, right? Communication, we saw that. You also seen the ability for situational football. So all those things we could see, we took in the last 2 seasons, and saw that Arthur Smith was able to do that. Of course, before that, if you always want to look at guys' track records, before he was in Tennessee, Arthur Smith actually was with the Washington Redskins at the time, where he served as the defensive assistant. So he actually started his chops on the defensive side of the ball. You gotta like that. He was also a scout, working his way up through the coaching staff. That's one of the impressive things about Arthur Smith. Also, if you look at when he was in Tennessee, he's actually was able to survive through 4 different head coaches. So whatever he was doing, whatever the new coaches seen, that was like to keep Arthur Smith on the team, on the roster. So that tells you a lot about the kind of character that he has, that when a new coach came in, they wanted to keep him on board. And then, believe it or not, guys, he also was in college as a linebacker coach at Ole Miss. So he has a lot of experience coaching. Like I said, starting his way up from being a linebackers coach to a defensive assistant, to being a tight end assistant coach, to a tight end coach, to an offensive coordinator, and now our head coach. So that's what you gotta like about Arthur Smith, right? The next guy, of course, is our DC, Ryan Nielsen. We know where he came from. We don't have to, elaborate on that. But one thing about why he was there, since 2017, the New Orleans Saints has had 281 sacks. That's second most in NFL during that time span. So, and he was the defensive line coach during that time. And Mr. Cameron Jordan had 6 Pro Bowl appearances during that time. So, was it the talent on the team, or was it the coaching? We will see about that coming up this year. About that, but you like where the Ryan Nielsen background come from, the defensive line. We talked about the trenches so much. His intensity that he utilized when he's teaching and coaching. The players already are starting to feed off that. You love to see that from Ryan Nielsen. Of course, coming from NC State, took his chop in college as well. But Ryan Nielsen has been coaching football since 2002. So that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years of coaching for Ryan Nielsen. So even though he has not, called a lot of plays in the NFL, no plays in the NFL. He was assistant defensive coordinator last year with the New Orleans Saints. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ryan Nielsen, go about calling this game. I love to see it. I can't wait to see it. And I believe it's going to be something really exciting to see moving this season. I can't wait. All right. But if we want to talk about the defense, we got to talk about the assistant head coach, and that is Jerry Gray, who has 26 years of coaching experience, right? So he's definitely going to be able to assist our DC, Ryan Nielsen, in all things defense. Jerry Gray, like I said, 26 years, 8 of those seasons was as a defensive coordinator. So definitely have Ryan Nielsen have somebody to lean on to be able to assist him in his defensive coordinators duties. Also, 16 seasons as a defensive back coach and defensive pass coordinator. So we know that he knows about DBs, getting our passing defense to where it needs to be. That really excites me a lot as well. If you look at his background, he has coached in 10 top 10 defenses over that time span. 11 times it was 11 overall, and 13 times they was top 10 in passing defense. So those 26 seasons, Jerry Gray have coached some pretty good defenses throughout the season. Of course, you know about all the players from all the different teams. You can go research that and look it up. But a lot of Pro Bowlers, could be some potential Hall of Famers in that list as well. So I like the addition of Jerry Gray, bringing him in, working with Jeff Okudah, working more, working on hand with AJ Terrell, bringing in Jesse Bates, Richie Grant. I believe this defensive backfield has a good opportunity to be well, but that connection between Ryan Nielsen and Jerry Gray should really be good this year. Really like to see that. All right, talk about our offensive coordinator, Dave Ragone, a guy who was with the Chicago Bears. Initially, he was the quarterback's coach. Then he became the pass coordinator for the Chicago Bears. And we know how that went. He had, 2 pretty good successful seasons with 2 young quarterbacks, Nick Foles being one of them, and the other kid, I can't think of his name. You guys know who I mean. I can't think of his name right now, but both of those guys on the Chicago Bears. Before that, he was actually with Tennessee. So that's the connection with Coach Smith. He was actually at Tennessee being a wide receivers coach. So that's that connection. He was there in 2011. Of course, we know Coach Smith was there during that time as well. So that's that connection. And you love to see the connections, how guys get together and things like that. So before Coach Ragone with the Bears, he was with the Tennessee Titans. All right. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about our special teams coach. And that's Marquise Williams, a guy who was the assistant special team coach with the Detroit Lions, who had a pretty good special teams. We know Agnew had put up some great numbers when Coach Williams was there. That's how we got some of our other guys, stud special teamers as well, bringing experience in. I think the Atlanta Falcons special teams has really been really good over the last 2 seasons. Multiple blocks, kicks, 1 or 2 teams last year to actually have a special team touchdown. We had it twice last season. So, of course, CP and Lorenzo Carter running that block punt back from Troy Anderson. So, you love to see things like that. Before Marquise Williams with the Detroit Lions, he was actually with the Los Angeles Chargers. So, being a defensive assistant, so he just not had his chops with the special teams. He also has been a defensive assistant as well. So, guys, so with all that being said, looking at the Atlanta Falcons coaching staff, I believe that we have the right guys in place for this team to be successful based off the players we brought in, and looking at all the characteristics of all these coaches. Of course, you look at Dwayne Ledford, our offensive coordinator. I think he's already, you can see the jump of what he did from one year to the next season. Hopefully, we can actually see that grow even more with his offensive line. Especially this year, it's going to be really intense practices going back and forth between our offensive line and defensive line. That's Ryan Nielsen and Dwayne Ledford. Like Arthur Smith mentioned earlier this week in one of his press conferences, but also look at the passing game as well with Jerry Gray on the backside going up against those pass catchers out there. Can't wait till Kyle Pitts get back to add a little juice to the offensive side. Of course, got Jonnu, we got Drake, Matt Collins, Scotty Miller. And we'll be able to see Cardell Patterson coming back here soon in minicamp. So all those guys. And I know I did not forget about our talented backfield, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. But guys, let me know what you think about this coaching staff. Do you think it is as important as people should believe about coaching in NFL? Or is it just something that a lot of people just brush aside and be like, you got the talent? Because, every year we talk about one of the most talented teams in NFL is like the Dallas Cowboys, but for some reason they can't get over the hump. And it's been, 28 years having all that talent. So you can have the talent, but at the end of the day, the team got to come together. And it starts at the top with the bona fide leader of the men, head coach, and his coaching staff. So guys, there you have it. My thoughts on NFL coaching, how important it is, where the Atlanta Falcons stands with it, some of their coaches, what I believe that it takes to make a good coach in NFL. And definitely want to hear from you guys. Give me some good feedback. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.